I really can't express my excitement for this movie. This is dope. I love that it's a musical. I love that it's taking place in Arkham Asylum. Todd Phillips knows exactly what he's doing. I have no doubt in my mind that this movie will be a masterpiece. A lot of y'all really gotta start being more open-minded about the new Joker movie, because personally, I think this is gonna be one of the most creative comic book movies that we're ever gonna see. I was completely disappointed with this movie. Hey everyone, and welcome to my spoiler review of Joker Folie. We're going to be talking about the things I liked. We're going to be talking about the things that, for the most part, really disliked, and that really insane ending. Let's get into it. So, to my surprise, Joker Folie really didn't live up to my expectations. 2 years ago, when it got announced, I made a couple TikToks talking about why I'm so optimistic about it and why I think that the musical aspect of the film is going to be amazing. And, you know, I'm not embarrassed to say that I was completely disappointed with this movie. But Joker Folie takes place 2 years after the events of Joker 2019, in which Arthur is waiting trial for the crimes that he committed in that movie. And similar to how Joker 2019 opened up on a classic Warner Brothers logo, this one also opened up on a classic Warner Brothers logo that is the Looney Tunes logo, in which it opens up on a Joker cartoon that is very reminiscent of Looney Tunes. It's called Me and My Shadow, and it basically sums up the end of Joker 2019, but it's also giving us an idea as to what this movie that we're about to watch is going to be about. It's about Arthur battling with his other persona, Joker. And I'll be honest, that was actually a pretty interesting thing that they chose to open up on this movie with. I thought it was pretty creative, and I thought it was pretty fun. So I don't really have any problems there. Now, a lot of this movie takes place in Arkham Asylum, in which we get to see what Arthur's life is like in Arkham Asylum 2 years after his crimes. And he has sort of become this friendly person, I guess. Maybe that's not the correct terminology, but he has become someone that people go to him for jokes, people go to laugh, but now he isn't talking. Things have changed. Then Arthur meets Lee Quinzel, or Harley Quinzel, or Harley Quinn, played by Lady Gaga. And, you know, for what she's given, as far as a script goes, she does pretty okay. But the writers kind of butchered the character in this movie, in my opinion. But Arthur and Lee become very infatuated with each other, so much to the point where they become one. Or I guess not really one, but it goes back to the title of the movie, Joker Folie, which means shared madness between two people, which the movie doesn't actually ever really stick to that title. I mean, there's, you know, the musical numbers in which, you know, we get to see Lee or Harley Quinn and Joker sing it out and are connected in that sort of madness, but Harley Quinn in this movie really doesn't have any sort of, like, there's no reason for us to think, oh my god, this person is like actually clinically insane. Because Harley Quinn is not an actual inmate of Arkham Asylum. She checked herself in because her father is a rich doctor. And throughout the movie, some pretty interesting things happen that kind of pulled me out of the movie. Like, one example that I have is when Arthur is locked in like this separate area to where he usually is staying. He wakes up to Harley, in his room, and her excuse was that the guards let her in. Why? Lee somehow gets access to the room that Arthur is staying in, and it's so weird because the only way they describe it is that the guards just let her in to see him. There's no way that they would ever let someone in a room with a sociopathic murderer. Like, like her father probably bribed the guards or just Arkham Asylum in whole to basically let her do whatever she wants in Arkham Asylum, because she got into Arkham so that she could meet Arthur, because she's completely invested in the Joker persona. Which, by the way, in that scene in which Lee somehow gets access to Arthur's room, there's a very weird scene, and it's the scene where Arthur and Lee have sex, and it's just such a interesting choice of camera work and overall writing of the scene. I was just kind of like, I was sitting there kind of just sinking into myself. I was like, what am I watching? This is so weird. And I know that they're trying to really grasp that idea that Arthur is a weird person, but we already know that Arthur is weird. Arthur has problems. And there are so many moments throughout this movie where they are intentionally trying to make him seem weird, but we don't need that. We know that he's this weird person. Like, for example, like the sex scene, or the scene where Arthur is just randomly kissing his lawyer. Like, it's so random. And like, I mean, it would make more sense if they really built off of that and gave us more reason to be like, okay, like, is he like trying to trick people? Or is he just clinically insane? It's so weird because he is a weirdo. We don't need those weird scenes. Now, onto the musical aspect of this movie, because that is the most controversial part of the whole entire movie that people have been worrying about for the last 2 years since this movie got announced as being a musical. Because, like I said, I was very excited about the musical aspect because I, for one, like musicals. I really, really, really enjoy musicals. And I was thinking that it was going to be a very smart choice for Arthur's character because, you know, dancing was a pretty big part of his character in the first film. It wasn't like, you know, obviously the main point, but almost after every single one of his murders, he pretty much danced his like sorrows and problems away. So I thought that's what it was going to be like in this movie, but it completely just went like totally in the opposite direction and didn't really help push the story along in a way that was tasteful. Now, on the other hand, I do enjoy some of the musical numbers, especially the one with Joker and Harley in the courtroom, in which they're singing "The Joker Is Me," and then he ends up like, you know, smashing Harvey Dent with the chair, and then the judge with the gavel. That was a pretty enjoyable scene. It was artsy. It was really entertaining. But the thing about the musical numbers in this movie is that if you take all of them out, it's just a bad court drama. Because that is basically the only actual plot that's being pushed forward is the courtroom. And it would have made so much more sense if they actually somehow connected the musical numbers to everything else that was happening. There were some moments in which Arthur was actually singing in real time, like in the interview that he was having at Arkham. He was actually singing, and that was causing a stir around like the society. So that was pretty cool. But as far as the huge set pieces that most of this budget went into for the musical numbers, it was so randomly placed. It was just like, okay, so we have this scene of Arthur breaking down. This is in the courtroom, right before the Harley Quinn and Joker courtroom musical number. Arthur is sitting at the desk, and while I forget, I'm blanking on her name, but that his neighbor in the first film that he broke into her apartment and was imagining that he had a relationship with was talking about her experience with his mother and all the lies that she was telling Arthur about, like, his reason on this earth is to bring smiles to people's faces. Like, that was all a lie. And we get to see Arthur is completely shocked by this. And that was like the one thing. That was like the one good thing that he had going, and it all just went away because it was confirmed that they were all lies from his mom. And then they cut away from that and then go to this musical number. Like, I get it that it's supposed to be like this is what's going on in his head and he is like psychologically insane, but it doesn't make sense. While I was in the theater, I was like, if we just took this musical number out completely, it would have lined up when it cut back, and it would have just been a pretty jarring scene in which Arthur is just completely derailing hearing the truth. Now, back to when we were first introduced to Lee, or Harley, in this movie, is when Arthur passes by the music class and she walks out, and then she ends up putting like the finger guns up to her head and like pretending like she's shooting herself. But that doesn't, when I was in the theater, that didn't make sense to me. because that wasn't like a symbol that Arthur ended up creating for society to do that as sort of like a symbol that praises him. That was a thing that he shared with his neighbor, and that's it. So I don't know how she knew to do that, or why the writers decided that they were going to have her do that, because it makes it obvious that they're trying to connect it to when he did that, but at the same time, it makes zero sense why she would be doing that. That was just one thing I thought about when she did that. I was very confused. Now, for some good, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is still fantastic as Joker and Arthur, and Lady Gaga did a pretty good job portraying her version of Harley for what the writers gave her to work with. One really, really cool shot of the film that I think the cinematographer Lawrence Sher did really well, like composing and worked with Todd Phillips on, was the scene where Lee is visiting Arthur in Arkham after she leaves Arkham. She comes back, and there's this shot where she draws a smiley face with lipstick, and the camera focuses back on Arthur, and then he moves his head to have the lipstick line up with his mouth. That was the best shot of the movie. My favorite scene from the movie has to be when they brought back Gary Puddles to talk about his experience witnessing Arthur kill Randall. I think that was a really emotional scene, and I think it was really well done. Lee Gill, who plays Gary Puddles, put in a really great performance, because watching him break down talking about how Arthur was the only person that didn't pick on him, the only person that was nice to him at work, to have that person be someone that completely just changes your perspective on who they are as a person is really sad. Simultaneously, Arthur is picking on the poor guy in the courtroom, which is just, it was so hard watching Gary try and, really confess his feelings as to what Arthur really did to him. Arthur made the argument that he likes him, and he didn't kill him. Like, he made that known that he likes him. He wasn't gonna hurt him, but that's not the point. Gary was completely destroyed. He couldn't go back to work. He couldn't sleep, and he still can't sleep 2 years later. It was, in my opinion, just a really well done, tasteful, and powerful scene. Now, throughout the movie, it's mentioned a couple times that Arthur has killed 5 people. That's what the common public knows, but they don't know that he also killed his mother, which makes it 6. And he does confess that by near the end of the movie, when he's pretty much had it and has confessed that there is no Joker. He's always just been Arthur. Joker isn't the person that's killing people. Arthur has done everything. But didn't Arthur kill 7 people? Let's go back to Joker 2019 at the very end, where he's in the interrogation room at Arkham Asylum, in which he says, "You wouldn't get it." And then That's Life starts to play, and he walks out, and there's blood footprints from his shoes, insinuating that he killed the person that was talking to him. Whatever happened to that? They never, ever touched on that again. So I'm very curious, because it's weird that he walked out with bloody footprints, and they don't even mention the fact that he may have hurt someone in this movie. They didn't die, but he also did hurt someone. That was very weird, and that was kind of a distraction for me throughout the film, because I was like, didn't he kill 7 people? Let me know your thoughts about that, because I'm really interested as to what other people think, because a lot of people think that in Joker 2019, a lot of it was in his mind. So maybe that ending was in his mind, but at the same time, nothing really ever gave us a reason for it to be all in his mind. And it was if you walk out in a hallway on white floors and you're leaving bloody footprints, you killed whoever was in there. That has to be it, right? But I'm just curious. You let me know what you think about that, because I thought that was really weird. Another thing I couldn't help but think about is how they never, they might have mentioned him very briefly, but they never discuss him at all. And that's Thomas Wayne. Thomas Wayne was murdered in cold blood. One of the biggest man in Gotham, and no one no one is going to even make a comment about it to Arthur. Like, I mean, Arthur may not have killed Thomas Wayne, but he started all these riots that led to Thomas Wayne to die, and they don't even bring it up in the courtroom. That doesn't make sense. Thomas Wayne is like the biggest part of Gotham City. How are they not going to mention him? And like that was another thing that was really bugging me. I was like, why haven't they mentioned Thomas Wayne? He was like a pretty big part of the first film. Like, I mean, politically, he was a huge part of the movie. How are they not going to mention him in this? One of the most out of place parts of this movie is so randomly placed, and I just felt like, why is this in here? Like, I get it, it's a grown-up movie, so they can put this kind of stuff in it, but at the same time, I was like, this doesn't push any sort of like character development or any sort of story forward. It just really did not make sense. And that is the scene where the security guards that are relatively friendly to Arthur throughout the movie violate him, strip him naked, and violate him. It was so like distasteful and did not need to be in there. And then I think the only reason why they put it in there is so that they could push us into the next scene, in which the security guards take Arthur to a room, and then one of the friendlier inmates that throughout the movie was causing all kind of ruckus, has some mental health issues, starts singing When the Saints Go Marching, and then they pull him out and kill him. Now, I know that that's probably supposed to be a subliminal message that, you know, Arthur is the reason that people are getting hurt. But that was not a good way of expressing that idea. So I just think it was a little bit too much, and just, I think it was just a lame attempt to, again, like, hurt Arthur. Not saying that, you know, let's not hurt Arthur because, you know, he's a bad person, but that was just a little bit too much, and I did not like that personally. There is a really impressive shot near the end of the film where the courtroom blows up, and there is a one take that pans over Harvey Dent on the ground, and I had seen a couple leaks saying that, is this like the origin of like Two-Face? And I was like, okay, let's watch the movie. And then I watched the movie, and I saw the scene that people are talking about, and it's when Harvey is on the ground and only half of his face is just ever so slightly like cut up, like damaged. Like, I was like, is that what people were talking about? That gave me no reason to think that that is why he turned into Two-Face. Like, those are going to heal up and his face is going to look normal. So yes, Harvey Dent is in the movie, and yes, Harvey Dent is Two-Face, but I don't think that was the origin of Two-Face. And if that was what the filmmakers were wanting to do, if they really wanted that to be the origin of Two-Face, they did a really bad job. But anyways, in this same scene, it is an incredibly done one take in which we go from the courtroom to outside, and then Arthur comes across a man dressed in full Arthur Joker makeup, like suit and all, and helps him get away. Puts him into a taxi, they drive off, the one take continues, and then they get stopped by traffic, and then Arthur jumps out of the car and then runs down the street. We're still in a one take, and I really enjoyed that sequence. I am a sucker for one takes, you know. I don't really know how well it works, like, you know, with the story. I don't really think that it needed to be a one take, but it was still really entertaining. And now we're talking about Lee, or Harley Quinzel. Her character was not at all entertaining. I found her character to be pretty boring, and, you know, there was a moment, it was near the beginning with the Harley, or not actually, probably near half, with the musical number with the Harley, or the Joker and Harley show. And before, it was when his lawyer, Arthur's lawyer, told him about how she is not who he thinks that she is. She's not actually, like, insane. She's not actually a part of Arkham. And then in the musical number, she shoots him. That was a really nice scene, but it became so less powerful when they showed it right after explaining who she is. If they'd have completely ignored like the lawyer telling him who she is, and then it went into that dream sequence and then had her shoot him as in she's not who we think that she is, that would have been far more interesting, because it would have been showing us that Arthur is sort of getting, this idea subliminally that she is not who he thinks that she is. That was just another thing that I had to say about it, because like all the other musical numbers, they really didn't line up with the movie, and it didn't add much to it. It felt just like added minutes and kind of was just dragging and dragging and dragging. But anyways, that brings us to the very ending that ends in what might be the worst decision that a comic book movie has made for their character's ending. So, Arthur, after the explosion and after he tries to escape, he goes back to Arkham and he's watching a Looney Tunes show, and then one of the guards call out to him saying that he has a visitor, which already kind of sounds weird. Like, we're getting close to the end of the movie, why does he have a visitor when Harley already left him? Who's visiting him? Well, the guard takes him down and weirdly isn't standing by him. He goes far ahead of him, and then Arthur gets stopped by another inmate. An inmate that is very eager to tell him a joke. Now, I don't know from memory what the joke was about, but it was a callback to Joker 2019, in which Arthur says, "You get what you effing deserve," shooting Murray. He has a similar joke about a clown in a bar, and then says, "You get what you fucking deserve," and then he shivs him and kills him. But not only did he kill him, he sat down in the back, and while the camera pans in on Arthur dying on the ground, we see the man carve a smile into his mouth, which was so upsetting to watch. My mouth was open like this the entire time. I was like, what am I watching? Why did it end like this? Clearly, they're trying to connect it with Heath Ledger's Joker, because Heath Ledger's Joker is the only Joker that has cut his mouth with knives. And that's like so stupid. That's so stupid. Like, it goes against everything that Joker 2019 did so amazingly. Joker 2019 was a character study around a mentally ill person who is just being beaten up by society, but they put a DC character over it so that the audience goes to see it. That was the most interesting part of Joker 2019 and what made it so powerful. And then they completely just threw that in the garbage and decided, hey, no. Like, we knew from the start that Arthur wasn't like actually like the Joker, but he's the Joker of this universe. But actually now we're going to have him die, and then we're going to have this person that just killed him be the real Joker. It is mind-blowing that that is how they decided to end this. I mean, I would have been fine if they decided to end it with killing him, if it wasn't so rushed, because it felt like, oh yeah, wait, we're running out of like time. We just let's kill him off. Because Joaquin Phoenix's performance in this scene was really well done, and actually the moment that he collapses and bangs his head on the wall, I've seen this movie twice. I saw it twice just so that I could, really gather all my thoughts about it. And when he like tumbled into the wall and hit his head, I'm like, how did they do that? I was like, that was pretty rough. So his performance was great. And if they were going to end the movie, killing Arthur off, I would have been fine with that. We're not expecting a third movie, and it's not always the best idea to kill off your characters if, it's the last movie, unless it's really done tastefully. But there was no motive behind this random inmate killing him. Throughout the movie, there were some scenes where he was smiling and looking at Arthur, but who the hell is this guy? Who gives him the right to be the saving grace of the movie? Like, there's no reason for us to think that, like,
he killed him. Like, yes, he made the callback to the Joker 2019 in which he had that joke with Murray in which he killed him, but do you think he's really upset about the murders that Arthur committed? Like, no. He's a psychopath too. I just didn't understand that. And the fact that they were trying to connect it to Heath Ledger's Joker, in which he was carving his face, it made no sense. Anyways, that is my spoiler review of Joker Folie. Really disappointing movie. There were a couple things I liked. Mainly the cinematography. The cinematography is still pretty beautiful, and creativity-wise, I can respect Todd Phillips for really trying to add more to Arthur's character, but their reasoning of doing Joker 2 was that they felt like they had more story to tell with Arthur is complete bull. There was nothing else added to Arthur's character. Like, if they completely took out the musical numbers, this would have been a bad court drama, and it still wouldn't have added anything to Arthur's character. We get to learn a few things about his mom that he killed, and, he confesses to the murders, but no one seems to be having, the reaction that normal people would having. Like, it didn't add anything to Arthur's character. I enjoyed Lee Gill's performance as Gary Puddles in that scene. That was a really well done scene, and I did like that. But really, everything else was just a pretty big letdown, I will say, because I was very excited for this, but I'm not afraid to admit that this was a pretty bad movie. But anyways, what did you think of Joker Folie? I'm very interested to see what you think and what you hated the most about it. But on the off chance that you actually liked it, let me know what was your favorite part of this movie. Because if you liked it, I'm glad. I love that you liked it. But for me, I just could not, even after 2 watches, I just do not like it. I love Joker 2019, but this one I'm going to pretend doesn't exist. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed my spoiler review of Joker Folie. I'm very interested to see what you think, so make sure you comment down below. Make sure to like and subscribe, but that'll bring us to the end of this video. But remember, your movie moment is right around the corner. See you in the next video.